And call the meeting to order. Item 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. We have none. Item 3, approval or amendments of meeting agenda. Be it resolved that council approve the agenda of the regular meeting dated September the 21st, 2021 as presented. Could we get a mover and a seconder, please? Matt and Bill? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes. Be it resolved that council approve the following minutes as presented. Regular meeting of council, August the 31st, 2021. A mover and a seconder, please. Doug and Pat. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Is there any inquiries from the general public? We have no delegations or presentations. And we have no business arising from the delegations or presentation. Staff and committee reports. Items for council direction. 10.1, Survey Monkey for recreation planning. Be it resolved that the town of Cobalt send out a survey to get public feedback to assist with the development of the recreation master plan for the town of Cobalt. A mover and a seconder, please. Matthew and Doug. Is there any discussion? Has everybody had the opportunity to go through? John?
Just to point out, the survey is in a sort of a draft stage right now, so we're looking for comments, and we want to adapt it to Cobalt specific, so that when we send it out, it's directed at Cobalt with questions and seeking input. So this resolution then is to give staff the authority to put things together, make sure, get your input, and then send it out.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, just one question through you, your worship. We as councillors will have the opportunity to also fill this in, right? Fill the survey in.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I think it's important because I was part of the gym membership here when it was open. So yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Doug?
I was just wondering if we could have this revised to suit our needs and then represented at our next meeting for final approval. Just like to have a look at the final copy before it goes out.
Absolutely. Pat?
I'd just like to say I went through this that I can think of. It's just a matter of changing the places' names.
Still can't hear you, Pat.
Can't hear you, Pat.
Still muted.
It says unmute here.
Okay, I've got to press over there. Okay, sorry, folks. Once again, I think this is really thorough. It covers everything I could think of. And I think it's just a matter of changing the place names. And we're going to have a pretty good survey here. And I just hope that the public takes the time to fill it out and let us know their needs and wants.
Doug, you had your hand up a second ago.
No, just to point out I couldn't hear Pat, so that's been resolved. So life is good.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay, any more comments on the survey? And like Councillor Anderson said, I hope the public do get engaged so we know what direction to go in. Okay, 10.2. CUPE letter of understanding regarding COVID-19. Be it resolved that the letter of understanding dated March 2020 with the CUPE Local Union 127 and the town of Cobalt concerning a COVID-19 response be removed from, as the protocol are no longer current with the province and the Temiskaming Health Unit directives. A mover and a seconder, please. Joe and Pat. Is there any discussion on the issue? Go ahead, Doug.
First, I would like to know, did the union request this, or is this coming from our staff?
So this was a letter of understanding that was signed between CUPE and the town of Cobalt. So the purpose of this particular resolution is to get a town of Cobalt position on it, since it is outdated and the response issue. So in effect, this year we're going into negotiations, and by passing this resolution, we bring it to the CUPE local and say that we would like this letter of understanding removed as we start our new negotiation.
Go ahead.
When would, we are in the midst of the fourth wave of a pandemic, and there are aspects of this that still do apply. Some things have perhaps been retired, but I'm thinking this might be a bit hasty, because should the virus rise up in our area again or in the province, we may see these kinds of things come back again. So I'm just wondering if we could review this closer to the date when negotiations are actually going to start and see where we're at vis-a-vis the pandemic.
Well, that's fine. It's, the only point that I wanted to raise is that once we go into negotiations with CUPE, the letters of understanding that were in the previous agreements should be eliminated one way or the other, so that if they are eliminated, that's fine. If they have to be built into the new contract, then it's built into the new contract. So bringing it closer is fine.
Go ahead, Angela.
I think we're going to find that we're never going to be rid of COVID-19. So I think maybe if we can look at that as maybe making it part of the new contract, that would probably be a good idea. Not just for COVID-19, but any future viruses that may pop up, or issues such as COVID-19. We should really have a safety protocol in place for a situation like this, a standing one.
Absolutely. Okay. Doug?
Yeah, I would just like to second Angela's comments. I think, there may be a time when the pandemic becomes endemic instead, which would be very good, but I still think a policy of this nature would be good for future years as well. Thank you, Angela.
Okay, we will consider that, guaranteed, going into negotiations, and it'll be an item for the contract, obviously. Any more comments? Okay. 10.3, Timmins Police Service renewal of fire dispatch contract, as our current contract expired December 31st, 2021. Be it resolved that the town of Cobalt agree to enter into new contract with the city of Timmins for the provisions of a 24-hour emergency fire call response system that will go from 2022 to 2025. A mover and a seconder, please. Matt and Joe. Discussion. No discussion. All in favor? Carried. Okay, item 10.4. Property information certificate changes to keep current with legal billing normally associated with real estate property sales. Be it resolved that the current tax certificate, $50 per roll number, and departmental compliance letter, $50 per roll number, be consolidated into one property information certificate at a fee of $100 per roll number. And further, that bylaw 2020-50 to establish users' fees be amended to add a duplicate copy of property tax billing at a rate of $50 per roll number and statement of account at a rate of $20 per roll number. Mover and a seconder, please. Bill and Joe, discussion. Go ahead, Angela.
I just want to ensure if somebody comes in to pay their tax bill and they don't have their tax bill with them, that they're not going to be required for a duplicate copy of their bill in order to make the payment, that they can make the payment just on what's on the system.
I don't know. I can't answer that, but I would assume so. Go ahead, John.
That's correct, Councillor Ed said. So this relates strictly to legal transactions normally done through the lawyer's office or through real estate as opposed to somebody coming in.
Okay,
Any more? Discussion? No. All in favor? Carried. 10.5. Decision to proceed with an application to renovate an area at the Fraser to provide a replacement for the hoist room or the former medical center as recommended by an ad hoc committee in 2020. Be it resolved that council support an application to Northern Ontario Heritage Foundation Corporation to alter and renovate an area adjacent to the common room at the Fraser Building to accommodate a wellness center with a passive and active exercise and wellness facility. A mover and a seconder, please. Joe and Bill. Okay. Discussion? Go ahead, Doug.
I would like to know if this motion contemplates the creation of something like the gym we used to have, the hoist room, or would this be more like a wellness center with less virile kinds of equipment?
I would say it would be a lower keyed type of gym, more directed to wellness, I guess, but still gym equipment in it. Angela?
I don't know if anybody's taken into consideration, you're going to have to allow access to the Fraser Building, which is a secured building for anybody who has a membership to this wellness center, as well as any noise transference, which is going to happen through the concrete, even more so than it would have if we had done this as we originally planned at the old doctor's office beside the town office, because people are going to want to use this from past comments that were made after hours, which means weekends and evenings. And I can see that being a disturbance to the residents who do live in this building. Has anybody taken any of that into consideration?
I don't know for sure that that was particularly taken into consideration, but the building is extremely solid and sound was not a concern at the time. We're just looking for a solution. Go ahead, Angela.
I just know from when I'll give you a real life situation. I installed a hard bag in my basement for my son. And I can tell you that not only did we hear him on the hard bag and throughout my house, which was on concrete, but the person attached to me in the duplex also complained of the noise of the hard bag being used. Concrete transfers sound very, very well. You've got concrete and metal, and those are very good sound transfers.
Okay, taken into consideration, Bill. You're muted, Bill. Can't get it? Give us a second here.
Your worship, just while this is taking place,
Sorry.
I want to confirm that there will be a separate.
Okay. Bill?
Could John
Um,
repeat that? He stopped on the sound at separate. A
Okay.
separate
you're-
what?
Okay.
Yeah,
One sec, okay.
I'll just finish that because my slip of the finger there, Councillor Wilcox. The application it shows a separate entrance to the facility.
Okay, Bill?
Yeah, so okay, my question is, where is the common room located? Is it big enough to put treadmills in and some gym equipment?
It definitely is big enough to accommodate some treadmills, possibly 2 treadmills, some gym equipment. I don't believe we would have the free weights like we had down at the old hoist room. We would have some, of course, but not as many as we did have.
Okay.
And some of the bigger stuff definitely would not fit in there, but enough stuff to get a good workout on, I would think.
Okay, and the other question regarding Councillor Atsed's query about noise levels, I think we could probably do some testing of some sort to find out before we go ahead.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't see a big issue there. It's just test to see that it's not going to disturb people or whatever. The only concern I have with the noise level would perhaps be if they put in a system, a music system, where they crank it up, and that could be an issue.
Mhm.
But I think before we go ahead, we should do some testing regarding noise so that we don't disturb any of the tenants.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Any more comments? Go ahead, Matt.
Through your worship, my concerns have somewhat been addressed by John, but when you're saying there would be a separate entrance to the facility, will there be any entrance that would lead into the common areas of the building? The reason I ask is the front half of the building, there are a considerable number of seniors in the front half of that building, and they're vulnerable, and they've had issues with other portions of the building currently. And I don't know if this would go over very well if there was any opportunity for access to common areas of the building with regards to their safety.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's correct. It would be separated completely, so a separate entrance with an exit out the back. The actual common room now has 3 sort of false walls that make it up. So there's an area completely vacant behind these walls. They'd be easily removed or to be enlarged without much of a price. So that is not the issue. And the concrete, of course, is above and below. And the unit below, there's no residence below. The area below is the rear portion of the bunker.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, through your worship. One thing, if this transpires and there's a go on it and we get it all done, will the tenants be able to use I think it would be a good idea to allow the tenants to use the equipment or use the facility without paying a membership. As an incentive, we could probably get better people coming in there. I don't know, something to consider.
Absolutely. We're just in the infancy stages now of it. So, I mean, it was just a suggestion we had because we're running out of room.
Mhm.
You know, with the fire museum and the shape it's in, we had to look for other facilities and something that we thought we could do. Okay. Any more comments? All your suggestions are good and bring them to us, please. We're not, we don't want to be alone on this. We want recommendations and suggestions. Okay. Okay, all in favor? Angela? Carried. 10.6. Consideration given to the fire museum building, its contents, tenants, and whether a fix is in order or should the building be demolished. Be it resolved that the food bank be approached with an offer to relocate to a 60% portion of the former medical center, or alternatively, for the food bank executive to seek another location for their services brought about because of the structure issues at the former fire museum. And further, that the contents of the fire museum be removed and stored temporarily until disposed of, either through return to the donators, sale, or outright disposal. And further, that the engineer report and recommendations of options be received and staff prepare a response to the report for council's consideration at the next council meeting. A mover and a seconder, please. Joe and Matt. Discussion. Go ahead, Bill.
I think everything's hanging on the engineer's report. I'm not sure whether we got it or not, but I don't even know if it's safe to go in there. I mean, there's equipment that has to be removed. Oh, okay, I didn't see it, sorry. Okay. My apologies, I didn't see it.
Okay. There's actually 3 options here that the engineers have come up with. And of course, they're all going to be costly regardless. Any other comments, discussion? Go ahead, Doug.
I'm just wondering, well, first of all, I favor the option to just build in a second wall and then dismantle the deteriorating wall. I understand that would be the least expensive way to go, and it would probably be the safest way to go, and it would leave us with some residual building to do something with. And I'm wondering if that might be an alternative for something like the hoist room.
Okay, very good idea. Joe?
I was there with the engineer looking at the building and with TownWorks Dave. We looked at it, we came up with those 3 solutions, and I concur with you, Doug. Number 3, the option 3 is the one I'm really leaning towards. Not only would you could save partial of the building, it also gives a driveway on the side once it's done. And there's no parking whatsoever in that area except for on the street. And I love the idea of putting the hoist room in there after. That's a neat little thing to throw in. Now the wall, the facade on the side, we have to come up with a solution soon because it's not looking really good at all. Inside the rubble where they remove some of the drywall, it's very scary. Something has to get done soon.
Any more comments? Would any one of you like to take a look at the insides of that building? Go ahead, Matt.
I was just volunteering. I'd love to take a look at the
Okay.
inside of that.
Okay. Joe, could we maybe arrange that then, since you're familiar with what the plan was? That'd be good. Anybody else interested in Bill?
Yeah, I would love to look at it too. But
Doug?
what would my question
sorry.
about the idea of relocating the gym there? What are we going to do with the fire museum stuff? Are you saying underneath where the fire museum is? That's where you'd locate the gym, or is that where people are thinking?
That's where we're thinking. Yes.
So then we have to remove the fire
We have to remove the fire
equipment.
the collection anyways.
Okay.
And some of it is privately owned. Some of it was donated and just left there. A lot of it is duplications. So we could put it in a sea can for the time being and move on from there. Whether we want to continue with a fire museum is entirely up to council at a later date also.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking about energy efficiency. You know, if we put a gym there, we're going to have to heat the place really well. So there's going to be some. I mean, it's an older building, so I don't know what the costs are, but I mean, I'm thinking about energy costs there.
Well, putting a wall there.
Yeah.
Putting
Okay.
a wall there would probably make it more efficient because right now it's not very. You can see outside from the inside. You can see from the inside. You can see. Whatever. It would
Pardon?
probably make it more efficient. And right now we have to keep it heated because the food bank is still in there. And this would give an opportunity for the food bank to stay where they are. Any more comments? So Joe, would you arrange that maybe someday or some evening? And contact Matthew's interested, no, I don't, hey? Yeah, sounds good. Go ahead, Angela.
Is this any different than the last time we went through the fire museum?
No, this
I'm-
is, we now have a plan for what we
Oh,
can do to
okay.
try and save it.
Okay, okay, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Okay. Doug?
I enjoyed all of these comments, but I think probably the main thing right now is to get that building made safe. And that gives us a fair amount of time yet to discuss an end use.
Mhm.
But hey, I'm happy to get on with this and try and get it done.
Excellent. Okay. All in favor? Sorry, Bill. Bill?
Just one question. I guess, Councillor Dubé attended the inspection with the two engineers? And they're okay with people going inside right now, and they don't have an issue with anything collapsing that could suddenly collapse? You know, I haven't read anything here, just saying I would feel comfortable if they said, yeah, for now, we can go in there and we can take a look at it.
Well, people are allowed in there, but not opened up for like the museum for public access. For us to go take a look, he was okay with that.
Okay.
But I wouldn't start working there until we get engineer drawings of what to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more comments?
Excuse me, George. Just one. I just want to be clear with council that it's a sort of a multi resolution, but the second resolution it states clearly that the fire museum contents will be removed. So this actual resolution will put in play that everything that's in there is to be removed. We have contacted the fire department. We've contacted former Chief Leo Arbor, who's been in there. So we've started the process of that, but I see it as a sort of a longer contact period, perhaps this spring or this summer. But in the meantime, one way or the other, the contents of that fire museum have to come out of there before anything else is done.
Go ahead, Matt.
This question is actually for Councillor Dubé. When you were in there with the engineers, did they believe that this building would last through the winter in its current state?
Something needs to be done, is what they said.
Okay. Any more comments? So there is a bit of a rush on it, so we'll have to look at it quickly. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Items for council information. 10.7 EXP Lang Street Bridge Inspection Report. Did everybody have a chance to look at that? That is the what? Every 5 years we have to get this done. Is that what it is? And there seems to be a little bit of work's going to be required there. Any questions on that or any concerns? Okay. 10.8 DSAB response to June 12th, 2021 delegation. Very, very disappointing for myself anyways. I would have liked to have seen one building dedicated strictly to the seniors, but I guess we will have to continue a different, take a different route here, try and get at what we'd like to see happen. Anybody got any concerns, questions, comments? Go ahead, Doug.
I have a number of major concerns. You know, it was built originally as a seniors residence. We certainly have lots of seniors who are still ready, willing, and able to eventually move into there. We have a lot of long-term Cobalt residents who would like to move into that particular building. I do think it is, you know, I think we have to recognize that, yes, there is a demand for housing, especially now in these days. And it's across the board. All of the different age groups, singles, families, seniors, are all on the hunt for affordable accommodation. But I think in our town situation at the present time, And given that we've seen far too many of our seniors leaving or making plans to leave our town because they can't find what they think would be suitable accommodation, it behooves us to do everything we can to make this property available to our seniors, in part because they need a safe place to live, they need a well cared for place to live, and they need a place that they can feel comfortable to live in. And I think the DSAB is not being helpful at this point. I think perhaps they're getting in the way of us creating a Cobalt that we would be proud of for ourselves, for our residents, and for our seniors. And I would hope we can find a way to reverse their decision and reinstate this building and perhaps even some others in town for more sensitive kinds of residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just let me get through. I took this a little bit quick. I'm going to get the motion moved first before. Be it resolved that council accept the correspondence items as presented, moved by, need a mover and a seconder, please. Angela and Joe. Okay, carry on. Bill, you had a question? Sorry about that.
Yes, your worship. I'm in total agreement with Councillor Wilcox, took the word right out of my mouth. We're not the only community that are having problems. I think I mentioned it in an email where one community is basically in the same boat we are, and seniors are moving out. So I support that we designate that for seniors only. And as I am very disappointed as a councillor that the board, the DSAB board, actually passed this resolution. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Radstead.
I have multiple concerns. And I'm sounding like a broken record here. You've got seniors who were considered the vulnerable sector, and they're housing them with everybody. Why aren't they more receptive to a senior building so all the vulnerable people are safe in one place rather than mixing in everybody based on a income formula? Because that's basically what it is. I don't, being DSAB, they should be, I would think they should be more concerned about the vulnerable population.
Can't answer that for you. Sorry. Anybody else? Pat?
Considering that 50% of our population, I believe we found out last council meeting, is senior, it only makes sense to keep pressuring DSAB. 50% of their buildings, i.e. one whole building, should be designated then for seniors.
Absolutely. Matt?
I echo the statements of my fellow councillors and our mayor. What I see here is an organization that's applying cookie cutter solutions to a community like Cobalt that's anything but cookie cutter. This is not a situation where a template solution is going to work. We need to have fair representation or the ability to speak to the board in a manner that's conducive to coming up with a solution. Instead of requesting and being denied, this should be a conversation that takes into account the vulnerable sectors within our community, up to and including the 50% population that we have that are seniors. And again, the risks involved with housing them with people who aren't within that sector or aren't in a vulnerable sector themselves. Again, I'm very disappointed in DSAB, and this isn't the first time. I'm sure it won't be the last, and we really need to make sure that we push this as hard as we can to ensure we're protecting the vulnerable sectors within our community.
For sure. Doug?
One of the things I note in reading their letter to us is that they were particularly concerned with statistics of people in the area who need low-cost housing. And that's all well and good for a DSAB to be considering. But as we've all agreed, I think the individual needs of our town perhaps have to also become a little bit ahead of the needs of the area. Wondering if we might send out a letter to all of the municipalities who are supporting the DSAB and who are sitting on the board of the DSAB and ask those municipalities to redirect the attention of their reps on the board to a better conclusion. Thank you.
Okay, duly noted. Bill, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, echoing on Councillor Wilcox's idea, what other options do we have? I mean, it seems that we've talked to them and it's falling on deaf ears with them. Are there any other options?
Not at this moment. We can just keep at them. That's all we can do, and we will. Okay. Any more comments? Okay, all in favor? To accept the motion? Carried. Okay, item 11, bylaws. We have none. 12, general business, schedule of accounts. Be it resolved that council receive the following schedules as presented. Schedule number 2021-16 in the amount of $119,819.14. Schedule number 2021-17 in the amount of $95,140.28. Mover and a seconder. Angela and Doug. Discussion on the accounts. Any questions? Go ahead, Angela.
I need to excuse myself for a moment, please.
Okay, well, can you give us 2 minutes? We're going to go into a closed session shortly, so we'll take a break. If you, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I
I see
can't,
your-
sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Mover and a seconder, we got them, okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, any motion for which prior notice has been given? None. No mayor's report. Notice of motion. None. Counselors' updates. Go ahead, Pat.
Yesterday I was attending the Historical Society meeting, and I've been online with them for quite some time about the Heritage Trail issues. A number of years ago, Cobalt decided to shift their focus and their tourism support to the Round the Lake project, which was very successful in drawing in tourism. But then trail issues and advertising for our own Cobalt Trail has been ignored. Now we've come again, but every 10 to 15 years this happens, to a critical junction, and Cobalt and Coleman have got to refocus on the trail, or we are very soon going to lose it completely. There's a whole new generation of people at Agnico Eagle on whose property most of the trail sits. And since the 1980s, the property owners have dodged the government mandates to eradicate mining relics and return their closed properties to the environment. This means everything goes. If we don't step up to the plate and work on a number of issues with them, and such as the insurance protection, it's all gone. We don't have those good friends from back in the 80s still sitting there. And what have we got left then in this town? We've got a town full of stories, but there's nothing for the tourists to see. We don't have the old prospectors and the miners on the street that used to just regale everyone and stop tourists and regale them. We won't have any of those. And I'm afraid we'll lose our 3 businesses in downtown that cater to the tourists. Now, if you check at the Chamber of Commerce, Helena Colhane will give you a huge number of requests every year. When people come in to ask where to go, the Chamber, the number 1 place they ask for is Cobalt. And people come to Cobalt, not just kind of passing on by, but the majority come to see Cobalt, to see our mining. And this is the only place where this kind of mining heritage is left. All the other cities, all the other little towns that had it and are ghost towns now. And that's what we'll have left, as a ghost town. So the decision is yours. This is going to take a lot of discussion, and our next meeting, the Historical Society will be making a presentation bringing up a lot of this, and we need to discuss from there and discuss it in detail, or we've lost.
Okay. Okay, very good, Councillor Anderson. I was going to say, well, get the Historical Society then to put a report together, but obviously if they're coming to council, we'll get that report then. Okay, thank you very much. Any more counselor updates? Okay. Council's questions and answers. Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you, Your Worship. Two things. One with respect to the painting of handrails in town. When we first took office, and I think most of us promised we would do something to spiff up the town a little bit. And we started with painting some handrails black, but that seems to have ground to a complete halt. And I am wondering if we cannot do something to ensure next spring that we get that off to a much higher priority. The rails are looking incredibly tacky, and if we want to promote our town, that's one of the things that's immediately noticeable. And I would feel so much better if they looked presentable. I've had a little bit of second thoughts in view of the questions that were raised, and people have talked to me since our decision to paint them black. And I think I would like to ask council, maybe give me some feedback before I formulate a motion, but possibly ensuring or restricting black paint to heritage sites, that sort of thing. And if the population want blue rails in the more town part of it, I don't have a huge problem with that, as long as we make it one color of blue, and it can be a made blue, because every time you go to off the shelf blues, you get different shades. And I would just like to see them get painted, and I'd like to see that happen next summer.
Okay. The reason that we didn't get any painting done this year, and it's a pretty legitimate one as far as I'm concerned, we didn't have a single student apply for a position in the town of Cobalt. We had budgeted for 2, we got none. We have a plan, I think, that we're going to try and put forward at budget time that will maybe try and alleviate some of that. But we had no students whatsoever who applied for a position this summer, unfortunately. Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good answer. The second one is one that I'd like council to give some thought on. I think I'll be presenting a motion on this as well, is the strategic planting of trees in the downtown area. This is not an inspiration of late, although the heat wave this summer did spur it on in my mind. I found it really, really hot, and walking along the sidewalks, there is no relief downtown for anybody in a lot of places. And I'm thinking in 20 years from now, it's probably going to be significantly worse than it was this summer. But if we start planting trees next spring, next fall, perhaps in 20 years, we'll be very glad that we did. So I would like to hear back from councillors, see what you think, and see if I can draft a motion to that effect.
Excellent. Okay, well, definitely. You guys want to just send something to Doug if you get some ideas, and something we can move along with. Anything else? Thanks, Doug. Okay. Closed session. Did I miss? Make sure I didn't miss anything here. Hang on. Okay. Closed session. Be it resolved that council convene into closed session as per section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended in order to address a matter pertaining to subsection 2B, personal matter about an identifiable individual, including a municipal or school board employee. A mover and a seconder, please. Matthew and Joe. No discussion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we're going to shut the recording down. Okay, business arising from the closed session is nil. Confirmation bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-31 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the corporation of the town of Cobalt be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 21st day of September 2021. And further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and recorded in the bylaw book. A mover and a seconder, please. Bill and Pat. All in favor? Carried. Adjournment. Be it resolved that the regular meeting of council be adjourned at, go ahead, Angela.
Wasn't there something about a 10.2 that we had to address when we came out of close?
No, John is going to mark that down as
I'll reflect it in the minutes that they're approved, but the vote what didn't take place. I'll use the wording that will be appropriate on this one.
okay. Adjournment. Be it resolved that the regular meeting of council be adjourned at 7:55. Mover and a seconder, please. Matt and Joe, all in favor? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And wish ourselves luck for tomorrow.